Yeah, welcome. This is Nic and Sarah from Compassionate Self, and we're talking to Robert Krzisnik today, who is a friend, but also an author of 2 books, and who has facilitated many retreats and trainings over the years. He's also a certified trainer with the Center for Nonviolent Communication and much sought after for international intensive trainings in that community, and has a wealth of experience with all sorts of modalities, meditation techniques, movement, Aikido. But maybe I should let you say a little bit more about yourself rather than filling all that in. But I'm excited to have you here today and to chat with us. And I hope it's interesting for our listeners. If not, that's too bad.
At least it's interesting for us.
Yes. So welcome, Robert.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm very, very happy to be here. Also for the listeners, I just want to say that, if you don't like it, try to listen anyway, suffer through it. That's going to bring saturation. Joking, of course. And I also want to say that I'm enjoying this sense of companionship with the two of you. That somehow through the years that we've kept meeting in various events, that I have this intuitive sense that we are mostly kind of companions on the journey, like journeying into the unknown, and every now and then helping each other and kind of encouraging each other. But it's mostly companions in the same group of package tourists on the exploration of the unknown.
Yeah, I was paging through your memoir this morning, This Miraculous Life. I'll put it on the screen. This is your first book, story about sort of life experiences, kind of reading how in your foreword that these were the bits, stories, collections of things that have played an important role, kind of in your ever-present quest. What is this that we call life? What is this that we call existence? How come anything exists at all? And then your second book, which I don't have the hard copy here, unfortunately, but Remembering What This Is kind of like this kind of ongoing quest to explore what is this life, what is existence, and the new retreat and course program you've put together called Landing Fully into Life. And those in that companionship, that's what resonates with me, is this ongoing quest that I also recognize from a young age. I remember sitting at school in like social studies class, not paying attention at all, and just kind of having this existential experience, and I was 15 years old or something, and just thinking, what the hell am I doing here in this kind of space with these people, in this kind of story of sitting in this classroom, and who am I anyway in this universe? And so that drives me. And I keep asking myself this question, what is it that drives me? And when I read your memoir and also Remembering What This Is, it resonates for me deeply as, I can relate to that. That's been my kind of thing that propels me forward too. And as, kind of this journey of experiencing and making sense of that. And who am I? And I resonate with that. It's great to have a companion in that search. And I still haven't found the answers, but that's maybe why we've invited you for just another exploration. I don't know if you want to say anything about connecting at this point.
What comes up mostly is just this kind of resonance with this Yeah, for me, it's been more of a combination of like kind of wondering what is this life, and at the same time also I've so often had this experience of like something like I have the experience of having, or at least believing, that I've done this so many times that I'm kind of like bored of it now. Something like that. Like it's just like life again, you know. So it's just I've done it so many times, like, and now again, you know, and it just feels kind of bland in some way. Yeah. So there's very often for me been this question coming up, like, what's the point? What's the point of this? You know, what's the point of even doing that? Like holding a retreat and everyone connects so deeply, and like, what's even the point of that? What's different from that to like paying somebody €5 at the supermarket? You know, like, what's the point? Like, this seems to be, for me, so often a question that came up. And this question has really driven me to continue to search, like, what is the actual point? Why am I even here? You know? Yeah. So I'm curious, like hearing myself and Sarah share now, what comes up for you?
Very many things. You know, my mind works in a way that things kind of in my inner eye, you know, kind of a pop up like a patterns of thoughts, and then I'm choosing which one to follow. And now I have the whole sky full of this, and it's like, you know, this would be like 3 hours, so let's just go to, you know, on this one and that one. Two things that I would actually like to well, maybe one just I would like to share, because it was so touched when both of you were sharing, starting when you, Sarah, were sharing, and I guess also connected with something you shared on one retreat that is still in my memory, and just reminded me how, yes, my journey also started consciously. It started in quite early teenage years, in which I was very, very, very quickly waking up to these big questions, you know, like, what is this? And then also being in touch with other realities, other dimensions, and being aware that this is not what it seems on the first sight, but what is it in essence? What is this life all about? I mean, what is not just what life is all about, but what life is at all, you know? What is this that we call existence? And I do remember soon after this, after this became conscious in me, I started to get in touch with something that is still very present in me, and it's some sort of a existential loneliness. And actually, right now, as I'm sharing, I can feel it, you know, kind of emotionally alive in me. And it's, you know, the more I was present in this, or conscious in this journey, the more alone I felt, because I couldn't speak with anybody about that. When I would try, you know, mostly either it was dismissed, like, oh, come on, you know, or it was taken into this intellectual sphere of academically discussing and debating the possibilities, but not in a, you know, manifested, embodied way. And I remember how shocking it was when I started to go in my early 20s to heavy duty retreats, spiritual retreats called Enlightenment Intensives, which kind of saved my life. And I was having, and not just me, also other participants were having really profound, really deep experiences of oneness, of, you know, beyond time, space, mass, matter, energy, you know, into oneness, into, you know, time not existing, and, you know, and also this very strong sense, not just the sense, but knowingness that the consciousness is behind all of it. Yeah, so on this enlightenment intensives, I would be getting, you know, very profound experiences. I mean, everybody else as well, of course, or many people, and you know, which was beyond the time, space, matter, mass, energy. You know, the experiences of oneness, and there was this knowingness present each time that the consciousness is behind it all, that it's not like, there is a physical universe that somehow miraculously produced consciousness, but actually there is consciousness that produced what we experience as physical universe. And that was so clear. It's, and then I remember this was completely shifting my life. But the loneliness kicked in when I was noticing that my colleagues, my friends, my journeymen on this journey, they would be having the same mind-blowing experiences, but then afterwards they would continue living as if nothing happened. And for me, this was so hard to connect with, and this was becoming more and more present, as my journey continued through the next decades. And I'm noticing now that it's somehow, this kind of existential loneliness is present, pretty much, in living, not in the essence. In the essence, I'm pretty much aware of the oneness, but in living, there is this loneliness that there are just not even a handful of people in the world that I can share and explore on this level things, and that they have the similar experience, that knowing what is behind it all has shifted everything in their life. So yeah, so I just wanted to mention, I don't know, if you have a similar or not similar experience, and I'm curious about it, whether that is also somehow producing or amplifying, this sense of loneliness. As Meg Whitley once said, I was with her on one retreat, and she said, being the pioneer means that you are very often first, and being first means you're lonely because you're waiting for everybody else to catch up. So I wouldn't necessarily put it in my case in this way, that I'm waiting for others to catch up, but it is this sense of being getting used to being alone in the forest, that I'm exploring and reporting back to other people. I'm curious if you can relate to that experience.
I don't know if this is exactly what you're referring to, but for me, there's two things come up. One of them is, something like the difference between having an awakening or enlightenment experience, but it's still kind of like this. It's this I, the small I, has the experience, and then comes back to kind of day-to-day life, put on a suit and tie, and go off to work with my briefcase, and everything just goes back to normal.
I'm laughing because I never see you do that in my life, but I get what you mean.
Yeah. If I had one, of course. And then there's other experience that I've had is something like connecting to or realizing this oneness, this expansiveness, this like you say, this energy or beingness, which is the source of everything. And then it's almost like there's like a part of me which is a little bit more material. So then there's a physical material reality, and then as I see somewhere between this physical material reality and the expansive oneness of the universe, this these egoic structures, these different parts. And this part of me almost kind of looks back at that and goes like, if that is what I am, then it's just me here. There's nobody else. And this part becomes like kind of like terrified and almost wants to jump back into being the ego, because it's like, well, then I'm here all alone. There's nobody else, It's like there's almost like these parts of me enjoy the separateness, because that gives me a sense of having companions on the road, and there's this fear of living fully from this place of expansiveness, because then there's only me in the universe. I am the universe, but there's nothing else. Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've noticed that, but maybe not to the same level. And I don't know if exactly what I'm saying is what you're meaning. But yeah, it's been like more like glimpses, because the moment that happens, this other part gets afraid and it kind of pulls me back, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of speaks to when you've been through a retreat process and there's been this, and then the days after the retreat, you know, there's an intense experience of returning to your three-dimensional body and life in a way. And yeah, this song comes to mind by Kirtana. That's her story of creation. And she speaks about how almost like this consciousness that has this consciousness that's been there from the start of time, from that's kind of brought this universe into being, kind of is shattered somehow. And like it's almost like looking in the mirror and trying to reassemble these pieces to realize again what it was, something like that. And I find it such a beautiful creation myth, you know, kind of consciousness trying to see itself in a way, like, and for me, that's, as we're in this kind of fractal universe, I'm also shattered within. I have this loneliness, as all these parts are so yeah, I don't know if it's clear what I'm trying to say, but there's these moments of moving into that expansive awareness and being in the fullness of all of life and that oneness. And then I come back into this shatteredness of all these parts of me that are trying to be me, or these kind of elements of my ego holding on and trying to, consciousness trying to see itself. And it's kind of this paradox of this kind of expansion and contraction. And I feel like when we do like a dyad retreat, like an enlightenment intensive or awakening to life, through that process, there's a beginning to see all these parts and opening into my wholeness again. And for a moment, that's very blissful, because I feel comfortable in myself as I am. I don't feel lonely anymore. And the moment I move out of that space, I have that deep loneliness again. And so it's almost like I need to be nourished in those spaces just for a moment to remember how it is not to feel lonely, so that I can keep going, something like that. And I wonder sometimes about, is that healthy? I think so. I might not be going back, but like, where does one continue to extend that beyond those retreat spaces? And integrate that into my daily living and three-dimensional self, or that shattered self. Yeah, and then I wonder, is the purpose of life overcoming that separation, that loneliness? Is that what I am meant to be doing or becoming as a human creature in this lifetime?
Yeah, I'm curious if it's the same thing you're referring to, Robert, because you're speaking of this, the loneliness of separation, and it sounds to me like you're referring to something slightly different. Does that resonate?
In my understanding, we were all three of us were taking a different aspect, a slightly different aspect of loneliness. Yeah, I mean, I can relate to both of you. You know, what you were sharing was like, yes, you know, it was also referring to some aspects of my loneliness. But what I was probably trying to point out is that the deeper experiences I've been having, the more knowingness that, you know, emerges, the less companions I find in this world to share that with a sense that they are getting what I'm sharing. That, you know, otherwise it's almost it becomes almost a sad or frustrating experience. You know, if I'm trying to share something that's like the most profound awareness or consciousness I'm having, and I'm just sharing, and then that's received as an intellectual acrobatics. On the other side, it's, I would rather not share at all, so that's what I what I meant. But I'm also relating to what
I
you
have a
were sharing
slightly
as well.
different experience of that in some way. Like, I feel like I was alone, I was 15, 16, having these kinds of awarenesses, and there was no one else that I had ever heard of having something like that. Like, part of me wondered how I'd ended up, in my family, in my community, with the kinds of questions that I have. And I think the only way that I had companionship was through reading books. And only as my life has progressed, I am meeting more and more companions that I'm like, wow, so there's more people like me on this similar kind of exploration and quest, and moving into spaces where there are people doing something similar. And where I'm curious now is because you said you were in these enlightenment intensives with people having similar experiences, but then they would live life like that had never happened. And so, yeah, I'm just curious how there was still so much loneliness. I think maybe I got more of an affirmation like, oh, it's normal. There's more people that have had these experiences and are on this quest. I've got Nick, I'm talking to you. There's like people in my life. And before that, it was just me. And so I have a sense of still deep loneliness in being sometimes, and I'm not even sure where that loneliness stems from, but I have some affirmation that there's more people out there who are also seeing things differently or are on this quest. So in that sense, I feel a lot less lonely, like less of a pioneer as I grow older. There's more people describing this. And I guess that's why I'm so excited reading your books. I'm like, wow, here's someone who's, also in his own way, on your own journey with your own set of circumstances, still like on this path and search and bringing ways to integrate that into your life. And so for me, there's like an excitement because I'm still alone in myself, and yet there are others, and there's more of a sense of community for me now.
Yeah. So maybe I can offer a metaphor to how I'm experiencing it. What I've learned so far is one thing is, of course, the clarity that the mind tends to occupy the space, the space of possibilities in a fraction of a second. So pretty much whatever I construct with my mind, whatever meaning I can put together, whatever thoughts and concepts I can put together, are a very, very flattened version of bigger reality. So what I'm learning is to not take my mind seriously, not try to come to an answer with my mind like, oh, life is, the meaning of a life is this and that. And, because, there is a grain of truth in whatever thought my mind will produce. And it is like trying to draw a 14-dimensional object on a 2-dimensional surface. You can do something, but it's going to be, at the end of the day, it's going to be a 2-dimensional drawing. So that's one thing that I definitely learned, and because of that, I am very active in. I wouldn't say searching anymore, because I think I'm kind of finding it, but it's like developing a more clear channel that is bypassing, I think, my mind. And constrictions of my mind, of this reference grid of the mind, of this coordinate system, and into a bigger reality. It's like a wormhole into so and it's really hard to describe where it is, because it's not in a space, but somehow I can locate it within my energy field, where is the button to open this portal. And then what is happening, I very much connecting also to what I heard you, Nic, say about this expansion, and then this sense of, in a way, existential oneness. This is also kind of a loneliness. It's just you. And that's, how it very often begins with me, my little, processes or journeys, just suddenly experiencing the whole of my life in 1 second. So it's like all of my life, 55 years, I'm experiencing them and appreciating them in the same second. So it's not like a sequence of 55 years, but it's all there. But anyway, what I'm trying to say then, the metaphor is that it feels like I'm waking up from having fallen asleep in playing a video game, as if we all started this kind of a multiplayer video game decades ago or thousands of years ago, and we got really invested. It was really exciting, like, and then we completely forgot that we are actually playing a game. This is a game of creation, experiencing, witnessing. It's a play, like they call it in Sanskrit, like lila, like a play of gods who have forgotten that they are gods and they're playing a game. And so my experience is that it's almost like we are in this big room, each of us with our own console and, playing this game. And then I'm starting to kind of wake up, like, oh, I'm waking up. And then I see the person next to me also waking up. And I'm like, wow, hey, and this person wakes up and just goes like, yeah, fuck that, and goes back into the game, so that's my sense of loneliness. Like, come on, people. And everybody just, wakes up a little bit and then goes like, yeah, whatever, and continues playing. Nothing wrong with that, but it kind of leaves me there like, okay, good to meet you. There is nobody to talk to about this, So that sense. And at the same time, I'm aware that I've been talking for a longer bit. I promise I'll be quiet then for some time. But at the same time, there is also this sense that, I've been playing this game of creation and exploration of possibilities and, witnessing within this universe. I've been playing it for a very long time. And there is nothing wrong with this game. It's beautiful, it's interesting, it's artistic, but I'm kind of like every game that you would play, there is a time in which you say, okay, that it's a great game, let's play it again tomorrow, but I'm good for the time being. So that's also this excitement. My excitement is way more about waking up into what I'm waking up than into continue playing this game. Nothing is wrong with it. I actually became, kind of a quite skilled in playing this game. And I'm very much enjoying, and it's easy going, and I don't have much challenges in this game really. And at the same time, it's like, yeah, okay, I got it. I'd like to move on. So yeah, I'm curious if that what I was rambling now, if that resonates with you in any way.
Yeah. So this is, I was going to reflect back and check if this is what you were meaning. And I had another metaphor in mind that I was going to use, but your metaphor definitely describes what I was guessing was going on for you. Yeah. And I'm wondering if this is a great segue into maybe sharing a little bit about landing fully into life. You've already offered 2 online sessions in this courses in this program. So it's 2, yeah. And now, kind of translating that into in-person retreats. I'm wondering how what you've just shared is kind of is being brought into this new program of yours.
Sure. So as you probably know, I've been, giving workshops and trainings for over 30s. It's like 33 years now. And what I learned after, let's say, 20 years of doing that, what I learned is that the workshops and retreats and they make most sense if I design them for myself. You know, if I design a workshop in a way that it becomes a workshop that I would like to attend, you know, that is really exciting for me, and so that I am enjoying myself. I'm not kind of leading a workshop for participants, but I'm actually, you know, enjoying it for myself, and it's always I try to be at the edge of my own exploration, right? And so this one emerged in me in a very fruitful time of when the pandemic started, and I suddenly stopped, you know, flying around giving workshops and retreats, and I was a lot just in one place, and then something was just emerging, and this book came out, Remembering What This Is, as a summary of everything I have learned or made sense so far. And then somehow with the same flow, also this landing fully into life course, the online course, because it was, you know, pandemics, I mean, it still is, started to emerge. And it was how to kind of bypass all this story, you know, like, oh, the world is suffering, and I crash landed into this world, and I'm so full of scars and injuries, and now I need to first, you know, sort everything out before I can then, you know, experience something beyond it. And then what I experienced is that very often this healing, so-called healing processes, and you know, this kind of a spiritual growth processes are very often, they seem to me, just working on within this reference grid of the mind, and kind of just shuffling things around, you know, like being in a big storage and then saying, oh, actually this box could connect to that box. Oh, because my father said this, that's why I said this to my mother. So this could come back together. And because I have this core belief that I'm not good enough. So, you know, it's kind of a drawing connections and then moving, shuffling things around. And it takes an incredibly long time. And it's always following some logic of the mind, you know, trying to make my mind happy. Like, oh, that makes so much sense, you know. But then decades pass, and to me, it seems that not much changes, you know, just entertaining myself with that. So I designed this course, which is, well, at least attempts to kind of bypass the mind, not trying to sort things out in the mind and make it logical, but work more on our heavily injured energy field. And just trying to, you know, take this bumps and dents back out, and so I can take, you know, inhale and finally fully land into this life. Because in my experience, we all crash landed, and then, you know, we're all traumatized, and then now for decades we're trying to find some orientation, and then, you know, being on the deathbed, that's when we kind of start to, you know, try to make some sense out of it, if I exaggerate a bit. So the idea was really how to bypass that, and how to take into account that everything is happening now. So, you know, there is no need of a long sequence of healing. Things can happen now. And of course, needless to say, I put together all my experiences and knowledge so far. And I was blown away by I did expect a lot, but what happened in these two online journeys that I led exceeded my expectations. I wouldn't say that it happened to everybody, of course not, but to a very high percentage of people. They were experiencing, you know, what they were sharing with the group or with me later, a profound shifts. And so, of course, when the it's becoming possible or likely that the in-person retreats will be, possible to be led again. Of course, my, excitement came into, wow, let's do that. Let's do some sort of a washing machine, that you enter and then you come out 5 days later and you're in a profoundly different space, ready to, it's almost like reborn, ready to continue your life in a way you were actually meant to, because in my understanding, this life was actually meant to be a joyful, artistic exploration of possibilities and of creation. And then because of crash landing and our oblivion, and that's why it turned into something else. So that's the whole idea behind. And needless to say, I'm extremely excited about the possibilities that we may experience in the retreat.
Neither of us have attended the online sessions, but we're also super curious, super excited. And something comes up, something I've been, I wouldn't say grappling with, but like kind of contemplating, I think, more. I think that sometimes when people have really severe trauma, then naturally what's needed first is trauma healing before they can go to any of this kind of more expansive work, because otherwise it's terrifying for them. So there's just wanting to make that clear for people as well, that it's not necessarily that this work is for everybody. If you're dealing with some big challenges in your past, it might be worthwhile working with that first before joining something like this. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is the realization that I've had a number of times that like kind of makes me smile, now that I am much more aware of parts, like the ego, this mind structure being parts, noticing how very often the kind of spiritual quest, or the desire to awaken, or the desire to heal is a part that's wanting that, a part that's trying to get there. Very often there's this like, this is the part that makes me chuckle sometimes, is like there's this part of my ego that says, we need to get rid of the ego. Then you'll be happy, It's like the ego is trying to annihilate itself in some way. If we just got rid of this ego, if there were just no more thoughts, you'd be happy. And then the realization, well, that's another like aspect of the same structure that's trying to annihilate itself in some way.
Well, something that comes up for me in listening to you, Robert, I had a part of me that got really excited about, why wait until you're on your deathbed and then go, wow, and have like this kind of moment. And I think part of me has from a young age thought, I'm not going to wait to find meaning in my life until, maybe one day I'm like lying in a hospice somewhere, knowing my last breath is near, and now I'm going to make sense of it all, or something like that. It's maybe it's an adventurous part that wants to really experience the full truth, and like that image of like waking up from that video game and seeing, okay, so the video game's not the truth. And everyone else seems to be quite happy to like going back to the supposed truth in the video game. And somehow this big longing to know, and I'm curious, if that's a part of me that wants to know what's outside of the video game, if it's like an immense curiosity, or the universe, consciousness trying to know itself in a way. And somehow as a human being, I'm like this satellite dish that's supporting consciousness to be aware of itself. And then I wonder, like, am I trying something? Am I building a meaning out of something that's completely empty and meaningless anyway? I guess I'm in this form with these questions because I'm meant to be somehow that. So those are like some of the images that come up listening to you talk, and some parts of me getting enjoying that imagery.
My experience is that it's like these parts of me have consciousness as well. It's not like it's like that these parts aren't part of consciousness or something like that they have consciousness too. And yet, I'm very grateful to these parts that have been seeking, that have been saying, like, what's the point of all this? Like, so being here so many times, and because these are the ones that have been driving me to kind of to follow retreats and to go to India and to search for gurus and to try and make sense of things. And at the same time, it's something like, well, when these parts have done their job, then I can ask them to step aside and allow what is behind them or deeper than them or greater than them to kind of show itself, something like that. Like, I'm very grateful to these parts that have been seeking, and at the same time, it's them in some way that is getting in the way of the realization of the awakening too, something like that.
There's something else that comes up for me in this conversation, and speaking to this idea of trauma. And, there's that constant, like, trying to heal and find somehow a comfort and shift in things that happened when we crash landed. And then there's this waking up kind of process. And somehow, to me, they're both very important to be happening. And there's, we often reference, there's so many stories of these gurus that have a lot of experience with expanding consciousness and so on, and yet still do things based on their traumatic past. There's still a lot of sexual abuse, power games, manipulative things that happen by very spiritually enlightened masters, because somehow this kind of awareness is there, but the trauma hasn't been dealt with or hasn't been worked with. And the tools of translating that into everyday life, where you put on your suit and tie, that kind of bridge hasn't happened yet somehow. That's kind of the sense I get. And tools like nonviolent communication are one way of bringing something of the qualities of how things manifest in me into a very practical, concrete way of having a connected conversation with another human being. So I've heard Robert Gonzalez describe it before as nonviolent communication being some way of translating what I do on my meditation mat into how do I deal with my sister-in-law who just walked in the room and said something that had me want to chuck a shoe at her head or something like that. I don't know his exact words, but somehow finding ways to bridge this kind of awareness and expansiveness and opening into my lived experience in this three-dimensional embodied world. And part of that world is this trauma healing as well. So it's I find it helpful to frame, okay, this particular retreat is not about that healing process. Sure, there will be something arising there, and it is more about landing into life and to this space. And I think that is very useful to be aware in which area of myself am I working, and in which ways am I bringing all of this together?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing in, both of you, this point. Of course, while I'm like all broken, my bones are broken, and I'm bleeding heavily and stuff, I need to attend to that rather than say, oh, I'll do some meditation now. So of course, and I would like to be very clear that this retreat is not about healing, and there are retreats or processes that are focused on that. And of course, if we need healing, let's go there. So that's not for healing. I imagine some healing will happen, by the way, but that's not where the focus is, and that's not what the processes are designed for. Also, this retreat is not designed in a way that would be supporting our understanding, our skills, working on what we do on workshops and trainings. Again, I think along the way, I guess we will get some skills and some understanding, but that's not the focus of the retreat. The focus of the retreat is really about bringing ourselves fully into life. Because in my experience, most of us are not fully present. We've been shattered, like you said before, and there are these frozen parts of us recoiled, outside on the outer orbits, kind of circulating there, and we are kind of a pretty injured, trying to kind of move along. So it's about bringing ourselves fully into this experience of existence. Fully, and I mean, it's almost like I see it almost like an energetic sphere, that is all punched and dented and so forth. But so to shine with it fully into this life, and then we can create. Then we can, do whatever. So what we will be doing is every day we will have a theme on. It's a similar way for those viewers who were on the who were taking part of the online course. So there will be a theme of being welcome in this life, welcoming ourselves. There will be a theme of really finding our true, let's say, identity, if we call it this way. It almost like reinstalling the past. Updating the software that's full of errors, and leaning into the unknown, leaning into, like an artist is leaning into, like a dancer is, kind of leaning into an empty space and improvises a dance. So it's not, let's first practice and try to make it in a way that it will certainly be okay. But no, actually, as a dancer, I jump into the empty space and I see what happens, so, and I bring myself fully into it. So it's going to be, following certain sequence. And every day we will be doing guided processes. We'll be doing some diets. We'll be doing some working in groups. We will be doing some stuff with our bodies that I see as a three-dimensional portals into this reality. Very often we just work through our mind, but I would like to expand our presence in this universe into the fullness of the portal of our body or our energy field. And we'll also be moving. There will be also some movement. We'll try to walk on the edge. We'll try to go out of this comfort zone, or what I would call out of the known self, in which we think we define ourselves. This is me, and I need to protect this in this dangerous world. So we'll try to expand. Is really this me, or is there more out there in this outside my known self? So it will be a lot about expanding. It will be a lot about feeling uncomfortable. It will be a lot about being out of our known self and exploring what most of us maybe have recoiled from, because it was so scary at the very beginning. And of course, we'll be supporting each other, and there will be also processes done in the whole group. So I think very dynamic, and very, very much down to the essence of our existence in this. Who am I? Why am I? Where am I? And what do I want to do with this life? Not on a project level, like, oh yeah, I want to, have a family and stuff. But what, how do I want to shine? How do I want to bring myself fully in, and then actually bringing ourselves fully in? So yeah, it's a very different than a retreat that would be focused on healing or on learning skills.
So like how I show up in life.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Exactly. And when with life, I mean the biggest life I can imagine right now. Like the universe, the existence itself. Not just like how do I show up in front of my father or in front of my boss, but like in this existence, it's a very existential exploration.
Yeah, and out of the comfort zone. But I know a couple of people who have been through process with you online who have now signed up for the live retreat. So it can't have been that uncomfortable.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe they're a little bit more like us who like going out of the comfort zone.
Yeah. It's this, I call it sweet discomfort. When it is uncomfortable, but you have this sense you are going into a wonderland. It's wow, it's a bit scary, but like wow. I remember it's one of my one of the very inspiring things I've heard, and I still carry with me. Several years ago, I was listening to a podcast actually like this, and I don't even remember who was being interviewed. I forgot the name of a person, but this person was reporting about his friend who in his early, like when in his 20s, experienced some profound liberation, profound enlightenment, something really, really as profound as you can imagine. And this person was then joyful, happy, blissful for the rest of his life. He was just like completely happy all the time. But this funny thing, to me, funny thing happened when this person was in hospice, like slowly kind of dying, his body giving up. And he was still completely joyful and blissful. And he was actually spending his days going to other people who were also there, approaching them and say, hey, we are soon going to die. Isn't that exciting? Like, wow, I'm so excited what will happen. And of course, other people were not so excited. They were, petrified. So the nurses had to approach this person and say, listen, share with us your excitement, but don't approach.
Not with all the other people here.
Don't approach them. We'll listen to you. We are very happy about your excitement. Anyway, so I just got reminded.
And it for me shifts how we are in this life, in response to COVID, for example, part of me is like, man, I hope I get COVID and die. That would be so exciting. That would be such an experience.
Yeah, I told all my kids a long time ago already, like, listen, if I go crazy, from your perspective, do not, I repeat, do not put me in any institution, anybody. Take me to the middle of the forest, drop me there. I'll be just fine. If I am like terminally ill, do not plug me into some, hoses and, just let me go. Like, listen, like this is the most important thing I'm asking you as a father, like, do not try to extend my life and do not try to normalize it, according to certain social standards, because that's not what my exploration and what my life is all about. So yeah, I very much resonate with this, Sarah, about these pandemics, and like, do not take me to hospital.
Yeah, it seems to be a topic. There's all this discussion at the moment that seems to be very much on a superficial level, but then there's one or two people that I've heard talking about this, what's going on in the world at the moment, on a deeper level. And one of them is Charles Eisenstein, who's really speaking about, like, it seems that there's this terror that we have about death, like nobody must die and nobody must suffer anymore. And we're trying to set up these structures and in ways that prevent anyone from suffering or dying. And somehow every person who's walked on this, not somehow, actually, every person who's walked on this planet has died or will die at some point, unless, of course, some miraculous technology emerges. But at the moment, that looks like how it's going to be. And yet, I find it fascinating. I have these conversations with people, and even somebody commented, some quite famous person commented on one of Charles's pieces. And yeah, there's this new concept as well of cancel culture. And in some ways, this person canceled him because of his views. And it's like there's this thing that seems to be existent where people are almost denying death, like not wanting. And anyone who says, well, if somebody dies of COVID, that's kind of normal. This is what happens here. We're human beings, we're animals, we get viruses, we get sick, we die.
Yeah, for me, I very much resonate with what you're saying. I just got reminded now when I was listening to you, part of my exploration when I think I was 17, I decided to read the Bible. I was coming from a completely non-religious environment, so it was quite exotic for me, the Bible. So I went into reading it. I thought maybe that's where the answer is. And I remember I was 17, and there is one line that really hit me. It was somewhere in the Old Testament, somewhere there. I had no idea where, but there is somebody said, "It doesn't matter how long you live, you will be dead much longer." And it really hit me, how then at the age of 17, how we are just trying to extend this life as if that would make any difference, really, And I very much agree. It's also known in existential, as you may know, my education is in psychology. And in existential psychology, you have this, and also philosophy, you have these 4 big existential dilemmas. And one of them is the death, because none of us really knows. We can believe, we can think, we can, assume what happens, but we don't really know, and we will be alone, dying. Nobody will come with me. Let me try a bit, and then I'll come back. So, and I very much resonate, that there is this, especially in Western society, I wouldn't say it's in all societies, but in a Western society, there is this huge denial of dying. And it's almost like, we don't know what to do with a person who's dying. We know what to do with them when they are dead already. Oh yeah, that's, it's a funeral, and then it's a graveyard, and, and keeping them in beautiful memories and their photos. But when they are dying, it's like, oh, we don't really know. So, and that it also connects with what I think you were also pointing at, Nick, that there seems to be like this black and white perception. So if you're, let's say, if you're not afraid of dying, and you don't see this as a big deal, that must mean you have no compassion for others. So that means you're cold-hearted. You don't care about all these millions of people dying right now of, let's say, COVID, which in my experience doesn't, cross out each other, but they can both be at the same time. In other words, I can be completely joyful in my life, completely enjoying my life, and at the same time, my heart is really compassionate, bleeding for all these other forms of consciousness that are suffering, that are experiencing suffering. There can be both. I can be very joyful within myself and very compassionate with others. And I can be very relaxed about death, not worrying about it whatsoever, and be very compassionate and caring to people who are suffering or experiencing it. So that's what I imagine might have happened also with that person that you are talking
and in
about.
my experience, in some sense, actually even more compassionate.
You're right.
Because some of the people that I hear going like, nobody must die, and yet nobody must die. And if you think that people should be allowed to die, then fuck you because you're wrong. And then it's like, and you're not compassionate, something like that. And I'm like,
Right.
it doesn't resonate. Yeah.
Where's the compassion?
Where's
in
the
that?
compassion in that? You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have this like image of these evil villains in the cartoons I used to watch growing up who are looking for ways to have eternal life, and trying to conquer the world no matter what, to live eternally. And I never got that as a child. I didn't understand why anyone would want to cause so much pain and suffering to ensure this villain would, or that they would have eternal life.
Yeah, when you said, Nick, that about stuff that's going on, like pandemics in this world, and how to make some sort of a sense out of what's happening in the world. And I'm, like I said at the beginning, I'm not trying to. I think I completely am giving up on trying to make sense of things with my mind, knowing that these are very flattened concepts, whatever I come up with. However, just recently, a few weeks ago, I saw the trailer of the new Matrix movie that's coming out, and I was inspired to see the whole first three, the trilogy again, and I loved it as I loved it before, or maybe even more. It's almost like I'm getting it more and more, or I see more and more parallels. And what I like now, and what I somehow see some parallel, is that in the Matrix movies, there is this concept of the for those people who maybe haven't seen it, it's about that there is a computer generated universe that we live in, because our bodies, our real bodies, are being used for some reasons. So but we live in this computer generated program, and in these movies, the ideas are, one of the ideas is also that, of course, every complex application, every complex computer program will start to deteriorate a little bit, and then create its own little, it's like glitches, like errors in I use Windows operation systems, and there are certain things that don't work, or it gets stuck, and so forth. And something funny starts happening in my phone, and then there is an update coming that fixes that, but then something else becomes, So it's the more complex it is, the more complex this creation of ours is, of course, the more errors will be emerging. And just like the climate change, like, whoa, okay, we didn't think about that, so let's go back to the square one. And there is pandemics, and then there is this, so there is more, because the complexity grows, and of course then the emergence of these viruses, so forth, on a symbolic level, viruses is becoming more frequent. Yeah, so it's just a metaphor that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and those glitches may be our salvation, actually. On
yeah,
some level.
Yeah, or reminders.
That's one thing that's come up that I've been kind of very hesitant to say in any circles. So just very careful of where I say it, but I guess I'm going to say it now. In some sense, I've had this idea. Well, what a gift, what a gift that this has come at this time, because this is, although it's a struggle in many ways, it's like with taking a entheogen, for example, like most of the journeys, there's a challenge to it. So you enter into this place that you're not used to, and there's this challenge, and you've got to move through this difficult challenge to get to this openness and this expansiveness and this like connection to all of life. So it's and if we didn't have any of these, like you were saying, these bugs in the system that were creating all these big problems for us, I think that we wouldn't be kind of progressing and opening and waking up and realizing as much as we are.
I love it. I love what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm also seeing the Truman Show, and the whole
right
things. The whole dome starts breaking up a little bit, and he starts realizing he's in this fake reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a good moment to wrap up the conversation. And,
The death of the conversation.
may all its glitches enlighten our viewers. Yeah. So yeah, thank you for agreeing to meet and be a guest on our channel. That's beginning to unfold. Yeah. And looking forward to the retreat together.
Yeah, thank you. I also am honored to have been invited to this, and I really enjoyed it. You know, it did feel like companions, you know, sharing what we have explored so far, and you know, and combining our fields of vision together to learn more, to be more inspired. So I thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it.
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it as well. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Robert. It was just felt kind of very relaxed and just like a chat, which is what the idea that we both had for these types of meetings is just to chat and hang out and explore together. So yeah, thank you.